Today's travelogue presenter, as you know, is Lynn Funkhouser. Lynn has been diving and photographing the Philippines 2 to 3 times a month each year and every year since 1975. Lynn was inducted into the inaugural Women Divers Hall of Fame and the Society of Women Geographers. Lynn also received a Nogi from the Academy of Underwater Arts and Sciences from New Orleans in November of 2023, this last year. Lynn, thank you again for joining us and presenting on the Philippines.
Thank you, Nicolette. Okay, we'll get started. MGM has their lion and Mary Tyler Moore had her kitten, so I have my lionfish. Oh, well, it's not advancing for some reason. I am in, okay. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there we go. Okay. I've been diving since 1967 and discovered the Philippines in 1975, and it became my gold standard. So I've been going there for 2 to 3 months a year since then. We're going to fly into Manila. The Philippines has 7,641 islands. It is 5 to 20 degrees north latitude. Luzon is the largest island, and that is where Manila is. Manila is a city of 16 cities, so it's very, very overpopulated, and but interesting. And they have the largest billboards in the world. They're just amazing. Now, if you're traveling and you're worried about medical problems, they have some of the best hospitals in the world, or if you can't afford insurance here, highly recommend St. Luke's. It's a Joint Commission hospital, and they now have a Mayo Clinic wing. So it's a great place and very inexpensive. I get my dental work done there for 1,000 pesos, which is less than $20. I get my teeth cleaned so much better and so much nicer than here. I want to introduce you to some of the scientists who have proven that my gold standard is the most biodiverse in the world. On the left, you will see Dr. Lawrence Haney, who is at the Field Museum, and he has discovered that Luzon Island, which Manila is on, has more mammals than anywhere else on the planet. That was a big surprise, but since it's the most biodiverse underwater, it shouldn't have been. Next to him is Dr. Kent Carpenter. On my right is Robert Sunte, award-winning videographer. And the man in the green shirt is Dr. Terry Goslinger, a nudibranch expert. And then Gerald Allen from Australia, and 3 of them have done all the scientific work and discovered that the Philippines is the center of marine biodiversity. So now we're going to fly from Manila to Dumaguete, and I'm going to take you underwater, and later I will show you some of the above water attractions for those that don't want to dive. So Dumaguete is about 1 hour and 20 minutes from Manila on a flight. It's a beautiful little city with right on the ocean. This is an old Spanish fort that's been turned into a church. But I'm there to dive. This is Azure Resort. It's a small Filipino-owned resort. Only has about 20 rooms instead of 60. And so it's very laid back, and it has a lot of privileges that other resorts don't have. My second love after diving is gardening. So the flowers here are just amazing. And this is kind of a cross between hibiscus and ginger, beehive ginger. And I happen to find a couple frogs on a water lily. This is the staff who takes very good care of us. I'm not a big foodie, but just to go to the Philippines and have mangoes is worth it. Their mangoes are so good. They are to live for. And this is our dive staff and boat captains and so forth, and they take the best care of us. And everyone here is so friendly. I mean, the Filipinos have some of the nicest people in the entire world. One of my clients is joining them. I have to introduce you to the toque. This little guy was living in my room and I adored him. And I loved the little pads on his feet and his eyes. And a little close up of him. These can make a lot of noise for a little critter. So I'm just warning you. They won't hurt you. And the first time I heard one, it was pretty scary, but I've grown to love them. So we're going to take off and go to Apple Island, which is just across the ocean from us, about a 30-minute run on a big outrigger. And it kind of looks like a sleeping crocodile. There's some of the crew and some of my divers getting ready to go. And it being the Philippines, you never touch your tank. They take everything to the boat for you and they take it off for you. They seldom carry anything. And we're getting a dive briefing here. This is this is Glenn Carballo, the owner of Azure. These are the iconic rocks that greet you when you get to Apple Island. And this is the absolute best marine sanctuary model to the world. Shed Aquarium did a $49 million project on it, which was in there from 2003 until recently when they changed it to climate crisis, which needed to be done. And if you think one person can't make a difference, this is Dr. Alcala. He started the marine sanctuaries, and Apple Island is totally protected, has some of the best reefs in the world, and the people are making more money over us divers going there and enjoying it. He's responsible for over 400 marine sanctuaries in the Philippines and really started the movement. I take chocolate there. Petronella and I have been friends for a very long time. And so I take plenty of chocolate to help the island. But we want to go diving. We've got about 100-foot visibility and just the most gorgeous, vibrant reefs you could ever want. And you get in a little current and you ride the current. And it's literally raining fish here. Means it's very, very healthy. And it's just in perfect shape. Lots of different species of corals. I happen to like purple pseudo-amphius fish, so anytime I see them, I attempt to photograph them. Coral is a living animal, and this is a close-up of some of the tentacles. And if you look, these actually can sweep the next coral to them, hoping to kill them off so they can take over and grow larger. So who knew that coral could do that? And again, just floating down on a light current, and checking out all the fish. Black coral alive is orange. And corals protect all the fish. We also have large schools of fish. This particular school of jacks has been at Mamsa, which is a dive area, for years and years. And if you're a mackerel photographer, we have lots of mackerel things. This is a flatworm. We have razorfish. And that is a living mushroom coral. And it has tentacles, but this one was purple, and I've never seen purple one before. So anything purple, I have to shoot. This is a tube anemone. And someday I want to do a show on ocean art. Now everyone's afraid of sea snakes, and you don't need to be afraid of them. This one's just taking a breath of fresh air. They breathe air. And this happens to be a sea crate. They leave the ocean and lay eggs on near the ocean, whereas a real sea snake bears live underwater. Luckily, we see lots and lots of beautiful turtles. I led National Geographic team on a trip, and I was staying out of their way, and I found this turtle. I must have followed him for easily 45 minutes. It might have been an hour or longer. And just because of the color, usually they aren't quite as colorful. That salmon color is kind of rare. And so he just let me follow him around. And he got very used to me and came right by and actually slapped me with his fin as he's going by to find another piece of seagrass to chomp on. The reason they're called green turtles is because they ingest green seagrasses and their fat is green. And how do I know it's a male? If you look at the tail, it's very long. And this is a different one, and you'll notice that she has a very small tail, so that's a female. And this was the shot I was after when he comes up and just gives me a good look in the camera. Now we're going to leave Apple Island and go over to Dumaguete and Darwin, and all of those little dive flags on the left are the dive sites there. And this is mostly macro photography. There's lots of sand and lots of bizarre and fabulous critters. Since it's the year of the dragon, this is a dragonfish, closely related to seahorses, which come in a variety of colors and which are everywhere. Another relative are the ghost pipefish, which are about 10 different species of them. We have a dragonet fish. Notice the line through the eye. This protects it from predators. A little closer look. And this is why you want a really good critter finder guide. That is a baby frogfish. And I call them eggs. And they are so tiny and so cute. And frogfish are one of divers' favorite things to photograph. This is a little one that's grown up, and they can match the corals and the whatever substrate they're on. This one's yawning. And the cool thing about frogfish is they can fish. That's a lure that they have at the top of their head, and they can put it out and wiggle it around. And if another fish comes by as prey, they can suck it up in 1/6,000th of a second. This particular female is fishing by the light of my light at a night dive. And if you will look over to the right, I've got a little green arrow there. That's the male. And he's hoping that she will accept him soon. This particular frogfish is wrapped in a brill sea star. Never seen that before, that it allows that. And we love these, excuse me, wart skin frogfish. And that was a juvenile, and they grew up to look like this, which is why they got the name. You can see they can match anything. This one's gray and some gray sponges. This is a hairy frogfish. You can see the lure on top of its head, and it's matching a pink sponge. And here we have a black one. They can change colors in several hours. While we were out searching for frogfish, I came across this trunkfish, and it's one of my new favorite fish. I've never seen it in orange before. And then we have mantis shrimp. These are always a pleasure. All of the red eggs that it's holding on to in front of it are amazing. Their eyes see 16 times better than we do. They can turn 360 degrees around, so they have perfect vision all around them. It's kind of hard to get the eyes to stop and take a look at it. And their claws, when they snap the claws out, have the pressure of a lion bite. They can, if they're in an aquarium, they literally can break the glass. But they're amazing animals. Not everything is colorful. This mantis shrimp is not so colorful, but it has lots of eggs too, and they protect it until they hatch. Another reason you want a good critter finder, this shrimp was living in a very long sponge, and I love the eyes on it. I started out being in love with nudibranchs, and now I'm even more in love with crabs because of their diversity. This happens to be a hairy squat lobster that live in sponges. This is an orangutan crab, and he really looks like an orangutan. He's got all this red algae on him, and I got lucky to be able to see the eyes. This is a soft coral crab, which can take pieces of that soft coral and put it on its carapace and totally disguise itself, and it's in the process of doing that. We have a decorator crab who's made himself so green that he blends right into that caulerpa. They are so diverse. This one is a jellyfish carry crab and an urchin carry crab. Now back to my favorite nudibranchs. This one was named in 1830 by Ruppel and Lucart. And it's just one of the things that we love to see as divers. Nudibranchs are hermaphroditic. These are pair mating, and both will go off and lay eggs. And when somebody asks me what this rose-looking thing is underwater, it's nudibranch, Spanish dancer eggs. And after all these years, I finally found one close to hatching, and wish I could have gone back and really watched it hatch, but they're beautiful. Nudibranchs come in all kinds of colors and species and shapes and eat all kinds of interesting things. This one's a Pikachu. Wish they all would pose like that for me. They don't. This particular one is laying orange eggs. You'll find emperor shrimp riding on some of them. And a close-up look at the mouth parts. This one eats tunicates or sea squirts. And this one's into some tube worms. A close-up look at its rhinophores. This was a new species, and the last time I went diving and really, really enjoyed that one. This is an eel bornella named in 1984. There's still many being named. There are over 5,000 species of nudibranchs. This one is very fast moving like an eel, which most nudibranchs are very slow. These particular species eat hydroids, and they can pass the stinging cells of the hydroids into those serrata and deliver a sting. So that's a good thing against predators. This one's the size of a bean, very tiny. There's some the size of rice. That happens to be a fairly rare pufferfish color. If you look at how hard it is that scientists had to name all of these fish, this is a yellow-tailed chloris juvenile, which grows up to look totally different, looks like this. So when I started diving, you couldn't find many of these fish in the books, or they had a name for the juvenile and a different name for the adults. And now they're getting all sorted out, and we've got so much better scientific work to identify our species. People love octopus. This is a mimic and closely related to wonderpuss, which has these incredible legs that can be webbing, and they can just surround their prey. But we love the blue rings, which are advertised as being very poisonous, but if you don't touch them, you're fine. And I've actually seen people pick them up and move them from one aquarium to another without being dead. Here's one that has eggs. And another reason why you want a good critter finder. I wanted this species of blue ring octopus, and you can see it would be very hard to spot this as you're swimming over a large reef. But the blue rings are just gorgeous. And here we have a cup of octopus, which has made its home in a discarded coffee cup. Love eels, and these are ribbon eels. And normally you don't find two together. The one on the left is, well, the black one's totally juvenile, and the one on the left is turning to male. And the males are blue and gorgeous. And he's just breathing. No problem. The females are yellow, but that's in another show. And these little gobies have taken up home in a Coca-Cola bottle. So you can imagine the size. It's maybe 1.5 inches long at the very most. And this one's telling me to go away. This one's guarding eggs, and all of those eggs coming out of one tiny little fish is truly amazing. And this one's doing housekeeping, and I was very lucky to see it getting ready to spit sand. And it took quite a while to get this shot. So he's spitting the sand out of his home. Flying gurnards are gorgeous. They mostly fly across the sand. A male jawfish, leaf fish. The diversity is truly amazing. And I've been diving now since '67, and every dive I see something that I've never seen before. This is a cockatoo wasp fish. And we have lots of lionfish, about 10 different species. And of course, you've heard that they're horrible in the Caribbean because they don't have any predators there. But they're perfectly held in check and one of the most beautiful fish in the Indo-Pacific. This is just another tube anemone. We have crinoids in every color and every assortment of legs. And these are millions of years old in the fossils. And they're gorgeous. You could do a whole show on just crinoids. Now I'm going to introduce you to worms. This happens to be a bobbitt worm. Remember Lorena Bobbitt? Anyway, this is maybe the size of your thumb and about 3 feet long. And they're buried and they come out at night and they might grab a fish. And this one has just missed its prey, but I love the iridescence of them. These are plume worms, and they're just gorgeous. I could photograph worms all day. And we have Christmas tree worms. And now that I freaked you out, did I mention that we have phenomenal spas in the Philippines? This one is an Atmosphere Resort and has won all kinds of awards. And one of the most unbelievable massages you can get for half the price you can pay here. And I mean, a massage at Azure Resort is about $10 for an hour. So order up a massage every night. So we're going to leave there and we're going to go to Sikihor. And this is, you take a ferry to get here. It's a pretty decent sized island. In 2018, I was invited to be the keynote speaker at a seashell convention. On the left is Mark Ricci, who ran the convention fabulously. The two people on either side of me are the Pape people that own one of the most magnificent museums of shells. And the Philippines is noted for its shells. And on the right is Tom Rice, who used to, excuse me, write the books on the value of shells. And they had an auction where you could buy shells. And if you think shells aren't valuable, the one on your left is $30,000. The one on your right is $8,000. And there are shells that are incredibly valuable. This were some sea urchin tests, and I had no idea that they could be that diverse. I did come home with that crab. I'm going to do a whole show on crabs someday. There was also lots of art there. And if you get a chance to go to Sikihor, you really need to see that, the Shell Museum. That's another whole show. It's a beautiful job. And it's one of the few in the Philippines that actually has a museum of shells, and they should be seen and protected. They put me up at Cocoa Grove Beach and Dive Resort, which is a magnificent place. This was my little porch. And there are at least 3 pools. There might be more. It's a huge property. And it's just so relaxing to wander around. You can have your food out at the beach or a drink, or just sit there and watch the ocean. And I mentioned mangoes again. These, I have to have this for breakfast every day. And their red dragon fruit is to live for also. And of course, a pina colada. Their pineapple are better than we get here. And I absolutely adore plants. That's my second love. So I didn't know what this was, and I put it on Facebook. And my friends came up with Rangoon creepers, Chinese honeysuckle, drunken sailor, and falling star. So I like the falling star, I think, the best idea. And I'd love to have one of those in my yard, but it's a little too cold in Chicago. And of course, they have flame trees or Royal Ponciana trees. It's ginger. And they grow their own pineapples. That's why they're so sweet. And bananas. Love banana flowers. And they have birds. I don't have the lenses to get great bird shots. But if you are a birder, the Philippines has some of the most amazing, diverse birds that you could ever want. And there are birders that can help you find them. And just one of the ways of transportation, it's called a tricycle. It's a motorcycle with a cab on it, and you can get around. If you're into cultural dances, there's a fabulous place at Cocoa Grove. Excuse me. I fell in love with this drum there, and I would love to have seen somebody climb up there and play it. It just absolutely captured my imagination. Sorry. And here we have a mango shake and a pineapple shake. I can hardly make up my mind which one I want, so I ordered both. We'll take you underwater there too. This is a long-nosed filefish, and you never see one, let alone 2. So once I got a chance to photograph 2 of them, I was in to another whole dive of photographing filefish. Parrotfish are phenomenal, and they come in beautiful colors also. This is a fish we should never eat. They nibble the coral and eat all the algae off of it and keep it healthy. And for all of you who love that white sand beach, they can poo a ton of sand a year. We have a batfish, and another lionfish. Shrimp are amazing. This is a red-headed shrimp, and they can be so translucent. Again, you need a good guide. Coral banded shrimp are almost everywhere in the tropics, but once in a while you come across one that's very brightly colored. This is a popcorn shrimp or a sexy shrimp, and he is less than a half-inch long. That is a fire urchin, and you do not want to touch it because whatever you touch, it will be on fire. But it's perfectly safe for shrimp and crabs and shells and all kinds of other critters to live in it. This is a flower urchin, and you definitely don't want to touch this, even though it looks quite fine. Excuse me. I've read that one will put you in the hospital. When I find purple things, I'm all in, and I will just sit there and photograph whatever's in purple anemones. This happens to be Clarkey anemone fish. Here we have orange skunk clownfish, or anemone fish now we call them. This happens to be a tomato anemone fish, and I love that particular bubble anemone. And this is a behavior shot. This anemone fish is attacking that turtle because it's too close to its anemone. And it just kept at it, and the turtle finally left. My favorite anemone fish are the maroon clownfish, or the maroon anemone fish. This happens to be the female, and she gets quite dark. This is the male. And if the female should die, the dominant male becomes female. Lots of different species of shell. Here we have a laser clam. Always fun to find these. The eggshell cowries are quite common. Here we have a pair. And this one is laying eggs. You look at those little white spots, those are the eggs. And you can even find shells on sea stars. We have turtles everywhere. Luckily, they're very protected. It's another one eating seagrass. Another green turtle. Okay, now I'm going to take you to Bohol. And we were put up at this convention. We had a safari afterwards. We were put up at the Bohol Bee Farm, which is adorable. It's just straight out of, I don't know, but it's all organic food. They grow everything. They sell it. You can take it home and see the gardens. They raise bees. I was madly in love with that bougainvillea tree because I could only have a small pot of bougainvillea. Grow their bananas. And again, flowers everywhere, heliconia or lobster claw flowers. Lots of hibiscus. And I'd never seen this species of hibiscus before, but really liked it. Trumpet flowers. And you could go on all day with just flowers. And I don't know if you can see it, but life is a fiesta, and the Filipinos kind of live that way. Here's the group at Bohol. And there's so many different things that you can go see from the bee farm. We went to visit the tarsiers. This is the world's smallest primate. They're nocturnal, so this one's taking a nap. You can visit the Chocolate Hills. These are a karst formation, one of the few in the world. Again, very, very old. I saw it first in '88, and there were no platforms, so I trudged around through there. This is making it very easy. And no, I have no desire to sit on that railing. There are a lot of very old churches here from the Spanish times, back in the 1500s. There's a marvelous river cruise. It's beautiful. Fabulous lunch or dinner served on the boats. There's a zoo, a butterfly zoo. Another show. I shot a lot of butterflies in their gardens and fell in love with their very large snake. I do not suggest that you learn to dive in 3 hours. But this is the dive shop there. And they took us diving. Another male maroon anemone fish. I love to sit at cleaning stations, and these little blue wrasses clean the parasites off of fish. And you'll see all kinds of fish. This is a puffer fish getting the parasites picked off of it. This is a batfish. And I can just sit at one of these stations and watch them at work. Here you have a blue ring stingray being cleaned. These are panda butterflies, Anthias, one flexing its jaws, and a blenny. And again, I love to get a cute little look at how they can be. This is a nasty fang blenny. He's still cute, but he runs out, and instead of picking parasites off a fish, he nips their fins and eats those. We have a flounder looking at you. And flamboyant cuttlefish are high on everyone's list. Now watch how this one can change color. Total camouflage mode. And she has a male beside her, hoping to mate with her. And she couldn't care less. She's off fishing with her hidden tentacle. And we've got crabs here too. This one's taken on a huge piece of soft coral for the size of it. I love moray eels, and this one seems to be smiling at me. And lots of nudibranchs. This is a lobier, which has not been named yet. And again, lots of schools of fish. And because it's a shell convention, the natives come on board and offered people shells to buy. I don't collect anymore. But you don't want to, you want to know what you can bring back, because chambered nautiluses are on the CITES list, so you cannot bring them back into the United States. We're going to leave Bohol, and the next stop was Oslab, which is on Cebu Island. And this is where you go to snorkel with whale sharks. The fishermen go out and drop krill into the water early in the morning, and the whale sharks follow them back in. They are not restrained, so they can come and go or leave whenever they want. And I usually see about 15 of them. These are plankton eaters, so they're not going to hurt you. You can see the snorkelers up above on the left there. One of the reasons I go to Azure is because I can scuba dive with them. And they take a boat out there, and we get the briefing on the boat, and we're allowed to scuba dive. And the fish have discovered that the whale sharks are being fed, so they're around too. But they're pretty amazing. And they used to say you didn't dare scuba dive with the whale sharks, but as you can see, he thinks he's at the spa, and he's lying there in the bubbles from the diver below. But what, I mean, I dove for 33 years before I ever saw a whale shark. And now, whenever I want to see them, I can go to Oslo. They're being fed by the fishermen. This is with a 15mm lens, and I'm able to get only 4 of them and a couple bancas in my photograph. And usually there are somewhere around 15 of them. Now I'm going to take you to Malapascua, which is the end of Cebu Island, where we can scuba dive with oceanic threshers. And these are my favorite sharks. They're so beautiful. They come up from the depths and up to 90 feet every day to be cleaned by cleaner fish. And we're not allowed to use strobes. And look how shiny they are. But there's a cleaner fish near its nose. And they're totally harmless. The tail is 1/3 the length of the shark, and it goes through a school of sardines and slaps the fish and stuns it, and then it can go back and eat what it has stunned. But I just, these are so gorgeous that I just wanted to put my camera down and not even shoot photos. They're so graceful. Let me see what I'm doing on time here. Okay. It is more fun in the Philippines. Now, you've heard a lot about, I'm going to deliver my little environmental message about global warming and how the shells, excuse me, the corals are bleaching. If you look on the right side of the photo, that's living coral. The middle has been bleached. The algae is all left. And to the left, excuse me, tunicates and things have grown over it, and that part of the tabletop coral has perished. If the waters cool off, there is hope for the bleached coral in the middle to live. But that's kind of my pie chart of what coral bleaching looks like, and we're in big trouble. We've also got a huge plastic problem. We've got to do better jobs with our plastic. Turtles think they're jellyfish. So many critters, whales, and so many things are dying because of us not taking good care of our plastics. The seahorses riding cotton tip. I love this artist rendition of how we are with our plastics, and we just throw them. We've got to recycle them, and we've got to find better ways to reuse them or quit using them. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. What can you do? History shows us that everything good and bad starts because somebody does something or does not do something. That's Dr. Sylvia Earle. We're overfishing. Our dragnets, our long lines and so forth are killing so many animals. We've got to do better. You know, one very simple thing we can all do is stop releasing balloons. I can't believe the media, every news thing has got people sending off balloons, and these are killing even animals that live on farms and other animals. I saw a cow had eaten a balloon, and we don't need to do this. We can blow bubbles, plant a tree, plant a garden, do anything but send balloons off. It's not going up to your loved one. We've also got a horrible runoff from our farms and our lawns and all of the toxic things we're putting on them. Hey, we got to drink that water. Fish have got to swim in it. How long until it disintegrates? Plastic bottle, 450 years. Fishing line, 600 years. Tin cans, 50 years. Cigarettes, 1 to 5 years. That's the most discarded thing. Disposable diapers, 450 years. You can't throw it in the ocean. What can we do? Vote for someone who's into climate change. Shop local, conserve water, eat less meat, reduce your carbon footprint, support environmental projects, support alternative energy projects, recycle. You can think of more things to do. Thank you for your attention. If we have more time, I can show you a few pictures of blackwater diving, but I'm at my limit, I think.
Thank you, Lynn. That was an awesome presentation. We learned so much. While we wait for folks to enter their questions in the Q&A box, I'd like to take a moment to go through a few announcements.
Okay.
Awesome. So first, thank you to all the folks who donated to today's program. With your continued support, we can keep these events free for all. If you have not taken the chance to donate and are interested, You can scan this QR code and it'll take you to our website to make a donation. All right. We have a Chicago River walking tour happening Saturday, August 17th at 11 a.m. This will be at the Wild Mile Walking Trail located at 905 West Eastman Street. It's right behind the REI. You can register now for this event by scanning that QR code. That'll again take you to our website where you have access to this information. And you can also visit us at geographicsociety.org. All right. We have our Greek Islands in-person travelogue and dinner coming up on Tuesday, August 27th. This will be at Greek Islands in Lombard. So you'll join us while Jean will present on the Greek Isles, and we'll enjoy a nice meal and some wine and get to hear about his awesome experiences there in Athens. Finally, we have our Biodiversity Festival. That'll be Saturday, September 21st, and we are once again going to be right back at Big Marsh State Park. This year we'll have, so far, we have 13 organizations from the Calumet region destined to be there. We'll be doing nature and science-based activities with local scientists. Awesome. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you are not already registered to get our emails, you can go ahead and scan this code and it'll take you to our subscription page so you can go ahead and get signed up. Awesome. Looks like we've got some questions.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a look. All right. Judy Bach. She said, you showed us a couple of photos on sea animals in bottles and buckets. Is water pollution increasing over the years you've been there?
Oh, it's increasing everywhere. I mean, we literally have 5 gyres in the ocean the size of Texas of plastic going from the top to 90 feet below. Tons and tons and tons of plastic. It's all over the world. One of the good things about diving is that we have so many critter finders and people invested in showing divers good things that they're taking better care of our reefs or their reefs. It pays to take care of what you're making money on. So highly encourage people to go diving, and if they see something wrong, tell the owner to correct it. It works.
Great. Judy also said thank you. She had to leave early in the presentation, but all the pictures you shown were really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we have from Jackson Hartley. What was the usual depth you were diving?
Depends on where the critters are. I have been to 300 feet, which was not real brilliant. But I mean, if I'm like that turtle that I was with for probably an hour or so, mostly in 20, 30 feet of water. Anywhere from 100 to on up. It just depends on what I see, and I will cut my breathing down to nothing to stay there as long as possible.
That's super cool. Awesome. Is poaching for aquariums a problem there?
It's pretty much under control at this point. In 1985, I made a trip to Hingham, Massachusetts, and 5 PhDs and I decided to stop the cyaniding and the blast fishing in the Philippines. So we founded the International Marine Life Alliance, and we taught fishermen how to capture fish with nets instead of squirting cyanide at them. And we literally could go into any exporters and take a fish out, and if it was cyanided, shut them down. And then we taught the blast fishermen, instead of throwing potassium nitrate into the water and blowing up their reefs, we taught them to catch fish on long lines. I took in needles and we inserted those into the bladders of the fish because they have to be decompressed. So they would get 10 times the amount of money for a non-blasted fish. So big incentive there. Plus they were saving their reefs and they didn't have to travel to another island and blast it and keep traveling further and further from home. In that, we discovered that the fish swimming around in aquariums for people to eat had been cyanided.
Mm.
So we made a huge difference.
That's a huge accomplishment. Awesome. Are there invasive species that are threatening any of the species, mammals, or fish or coral?
Oh, we've got plenty of that. Even in Lake Michigan, we've got the zebra clams, and they're just covering our wrecks and everything else. Those are invasive. We've got the Asian carp that jump all over, and I think you've seen those lately. We're trying to find ways to cook them that people will eat them and buy them and fish for them. And I mean, it's a very expensive proposition to keep those out of Lake Michigan. We've got this everywhere. And, you know, the travel, I mean, we've got dengue fever coming in, things are traveling on airplanes and so forth. Everything's got invasive species now. And with the climate changing, things are really getting amazing. I mean, some of our species are moving north to get into cooler things, and we're losing a lot of them. It's a huge, climate crisis is a huge thing.
Thank you. Are you drift diving or are you stationary? Do you boat or use multiple sites for each diving trip?
Um, well, I go for 2 or 3 months, so I go to certain resorts and liveaboards and so forth. I drift dive until I find something that I want, and then I hover, and I might hover for an hour if there's something I really, really want. Or like when I was with Nat Geo, I was trying to stay out of their way and not create bubbles where they were. So I just picked on a turtle and made friends with them. And it just, I've got all the patience in the world, and I love to make friends with the fish.
That's awesome.
And I love behaviors. I just love, you know, like that anemone fish attacking the turtle. I mean, that just blows my mind. And the little goby spitting out the sand, and you know, when they're guarding eggs or mating or laying eggs or whatever, I'm there. And I always want to go back, you know, and see the end product. And unfortunately, I don't get to do that often enough.
The life cycle is pretty cool when you can see like
Mhm.
multiple versions of them. Awesome. This is a great art presentation. June Scott said, what kind of camera do you use?
I have an old, at this point, Nikon D7200, Icolite strobes in an Icolite housing. It weighs about 32 pounds. I mostly use a 60mm lens for macro, or a 105, and a 10.5 lens for wide angle.
That's awesome. How long have you had those cameras?
Well, I've had a series of cameras, and every investment, it's like 10 grand. And so you have to rationalize them and take care of them. And those, because of the pandemic, and then I took care of my guy who passed away in October. And so I've been diving once since the pandemic now. So I guess my cameras are maybe 10 years old and probably time to upgrade again.
Well, the photography that you're producing off them is fantastic. And everyone seems to think so. We have a plethora of compliments from Jackson, remarkable collection of photographs. Thank you to your dedication to the conservation. And Dorothy Dare said your photos are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our Q&A portion. We have about 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Lynn, for your time today. This was a fantastic presentation again. For everyone who came and donated today, thank you again. And we hope to see you at the next one. And bye for now.